Wizards of the Coast did not hold back with their first D&D Direct event, so let's talk about everything that happened today in this short 30-minute time frame. And one of the biggest things is we had 2 new campaign settings essentially be confirmed. Firstly, we have to talk about Spelljammer. Spelljammer is confirmed and it is coming back to D&D 5th edition. Now, for those of you that haven't heard of Spelljammer before, Spelljammer is a D&D setting first created by TSR. You have to think about it as Dungeons & Dragons in space. The whole setting revolves around these things called Spelljammers. These are these ships that can sail across great distances, essentially in space, in the astral plane. And the thing that made Spelljammer so great, so amazing, is the diverse stories that you could tell within. We have hippo people, dead gods, cities on the edge of asteroids. It really is a setting where a DM can create to their heart's content and where you never know what's going to be around the next bend. And it is insane because we are getting 3 Spelljammer books in August of 2022, along with a huge map and a bunch of other things. First, though, we're getting Boo's Astral Menagerie, which they described as essentially a book for DMs so that we could run our own Spelljammer campaigns. It's a setting guide, which is incredible. Then we're also getting the Astral Adventurer's Guide, which is jam-packed with new player items and races. We're getting 6 new races in Spelljammer. We can play as hippo people, or oozes, or autognomes. The options seem endless. And finally, we're also getting an adventure in the Spelljammer universe, Light of Xerxes. And I am really intrigued about how they described this adventure because they talked about the adventure being in these 12 episodes, with each episode ending on a cliffhanger. And personally, this is how I try to run my campaigns, so it feels like this campaign might have a tighter storytelling flow. And you know what? I don't mind a more straightforward narrative in these books. I think in general, some D&D groups want those more straightforward narratives. And if the story is good, I think many D&D parties would find a lot of interest in Light of Xerxes. So while I'm extremely happy that we get this Spelljammer campaign book, I'm almost more intrigued to see what Wizards of the Coast is producing with this new adventure. But of course, this is not the only campaign setting that we need to be talking about today because they are also releasing Dragonlance. Now, what is Dragonlance? Well, I'm personally a Dragonlance fan, and the best way I can describe old Dragonlance is high political fantasy. A lot of the setting is political in nature, centering around the Third Dragon War and the aftermath of said war as well. Now, I don't know what they're going to change, so I won't get into it a ton, but I will say that it is very setting focused. The setting of Dragonlance drives a lot of storytelling, a lot of political storytelling. If I had to choose a D&D campaign setting to tell a political story, a political campaign, something like Game of Thrones, I would choose Dragonlance. And with the recent release of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, it would probably be easier than ever to run a Dragonlance campaign. So heck, I'm super excited to see what we get from here. And at the end of 2022, we're getting 2 Dragonlance pieces of content. First is an adventure book, Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and I think I know what that might be referring to, but we'll see. And then they are releasing a quote-unquote battle game, Warriors of Krynn. And Krynn, for those of you who don't know, is the world of Dragonlance. And I think if the adventure book goes well, we might also begin to slowly see a setting book be released, hopefully. Although this is my one concern with Dragonlance. They are not releasing a campaign setting book beforehand, and I'm worried that they're going to dip into Strixhaven territory because while Strixhaven says that, it's a source book, it's really not. It's kind of more of an adventure. And splitting time between source book and adventure was one of the big critiques of Strixhaven. So I'm wondering if Dragonlance might fall into that same trap. Or will they just release the adventure book and then just hope that DMs can fill in the pieces of what is or is not there? I don't know. And I'm very confident in Dragonlance as a setting. This is my one hang up on the book in general. But now let's talk about some of the new DM tools that are getting released. Firstly, WizKids is releasing a ton of new minis to help support the Spelljammer release. And first thing that caught my eye was the massive Astral Dreadnought miniature. Do I have the money to afford that mini? Probably not. But will I buy it? Absolutely. I believe that canonically the Astral Dreadnought is the biggest creature in all of Dungeons and Dragons. Even bigger than, like, say a Tarask or Tiamat. So a mini of that size is just incredible and daunting to throw down in front of a D&D party. But I was also very intrigued by them putting forward these 2-in-1 minis. Minis that can be used separately or together. Minis that can be changed. No more kit bashing is really necessary. And I hope that WizKids keeps releasing these 2-in-1 minis, because they're just more bang for your buck, and it's easier for me and I think other customers to justify purchasing minis that are more useful in more situations. But overall, the new minis look great. That is the WizKids minis and the new creature and terrain tokens that are being released by Wizards of the Coast as well. And I'm very excited about these 2 boxes being released. They are customizable, interchangeable, I'm guessing probably significantly cheaper. They're portable. I mean, this is everything that I think a new DM could want. Or if you're not confident in your mini painting skills or don't want to drop that kind of money on minis, this is a nice, cheaper option, but you can still have minis in front of your players if you're doing live sessions. Now, Pathfinder has been doing something like this for a long time, but I'm glad that Dungeons & Dragons has finally caught up. And I would hope that in the future, Wizards of the Coast continues to support sets like this, and I thought I spied in the Spelljammer release these little pull-off pictures that would be able to be placed on the creature tokens and the terrain tiles. It would certainly make it easier to run these campaigns, and releasing these box sets that have, of course, the core books, but also these add-ons for the creature and terrain tokens would make it an all-in-one box set. And honestly, Wizards of the Coast could not make it any easier to run a new adventure. I am a huge fan of the new modular design that Wizards of the Coast is putting forward. It feels like that they are truly starting to put the community first. At least that's what I got from this entire D&D Direct live show. They are giving us what we're asking for. They bought D&D Beyond so that they could start integrating online better. They're giving us these module cheaper tokens. They're releasing Spelljammer and Dragonlance. Honestly, I have to give props to Wizards of the Coast. This is what the community has been crying out for years, and they are fulfilling our wishes and our goals. And look, I think that nothing supports this general thesis better than the new starter set. Not only is it a new adventure, not only is it more streamlined, but it helps onboard people through online resources. Look, I will be very honest, I rely a lot on online tools to help onboard new players, so Wizards of the Coast incorporating that into a new starter set immediately gets me happy. Gets me happy for the hobby, and it almost makes me want to pick it up just to see if they have anything new that I can use to help onboard new people to this hobby. And I promise, I'm not a Wizards of the Coast shill, but I am just very, very happy with what they're putting forward in 2022 and in the future. And I really like their integration, and I like that they are putting out rewards for integrating. They're not forcing integration, but they're using the carrot and not the stick. And one of the best examples of this is their new Monstrous Compendium. 10 new monsters from the Spelljammer universe, and all you need to do is, I think, make this new account, which I will probably be making soon because I want to see what is the design philosophy now in the Spelljammer campaign books. How creative are these new monsters? Are there new mechanics that will pull me into buying the book? And if the mechanics are good, I will definitely purchase all the Spelljammer books. But again, I think that this is how we should be doing online integration. This is how we should be pulling in the community. Wizards of the Coast is listening to the players and essentially doing what we're asking them to do. Now, I will not lie, one of the few things that I was on in the entire live stream was the announcement of a new update to the Neverwinter MMORPG, and I don't really have a lot to say here. I don't play Neverwinter, but hopefully it's good. Although, now we have to talk about something that I think all D&D fans need to be aware of and need to have a lot of focus and priority in, which is the new D&D movie. Its title is Honor Among Thieves. The movie is set to release March 3rd, 2023, so about a year away, and the two directors and the title give me hope, because I think one of the best things that Arcane did when it was trying to tell a League of Legends story was to tell a really good story in a League of Legends coat. It appears like D&D is trying to do the same, telling a really good story in a D&D coat, pulling on past Dungeons & Dragons lore while also just making a really good movie. Now, the two directors are fans of Dungeons & Dragons and say that they have been playing it for a while, so this gives me hope. I feel like this could be the next superhero genre, because now we have people who have been playing Dungeons & Dragons all their lives, who are finally getting into positions of power within Hollywood and can start enacting their stories, what they love about D&D, and bringing the heart of the hobby to the mainstream audience. And people like the Duffer Brothers have already done this in projects like Stranger Things, and we've had a bunch of nerdy-ass voice actors in Critical Role do this for the Twitch live streaming audience. But now we're moving into the big leagues. And based on the title, and based on how they were talking, I think that they are trying to create a D&D cinematic universe. And honestly, I think that this is one of the best things that they could possibly do if they're trying to create D&D movies. Create a bunch of strong Dungeons & Dragons characters, make really good individual movies, and then bring them together to fight these large, looming, big bad threats. Pull them together to fight entities like Tiamat, like Vecna, heck, maybe even Orcus. Tell a variety of D&D stories, because we don't just need epic fantasy. We can have mystery, we can have political thrillers, we can have romance. Honestly, I would be completely down for a D&D romance movie, because those are the type of sessions that hundreds of thousands of players are playing every single week. Who wouldn't want an elf and a dwarf falling in love with the backdrop being fighting a dragon? I'd love to see a D&D horror movie. I mean, just look at the Mind Flayers. Mind Flayers are terrifying. They are these eldritch abominations of creatures, and the body horror, the psychological horror that one could create with a Mind Flayer focused horror movie is insane. So, if the D&D movie does well, and if they are really in fact trying to create a cinematic universe for Dungeons & Dragons, I'm all for it. I will be the first in line at the box office. But this first D&D movie has to be good. Or if this first D&D movie isn't good, the second D&D movie needs to be good. There needs to be a seminal moment in cinema where both audiences and critics agree that a D&D movie has value. And hopefully, on March 3rd, 2023, Honor Among Thieves can provide us with that moment. I'm marking it on my calendar because it is a big day and it's a big moment for the hobby, and something that I am personally very excited for. Now, the last thing that we need to talk about is the new D&D mini game, which they are calling D&D Onslaught. From what it looks like, it is a challenge to Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k. And I won't lie, I'm a little bit suspect of it. They only seem to have, 2-3 playable factions? The minis did not look all that good or interesting. Don't get me wrong, I am very happy that Wizards of the Coast seems to be trying to challenge Games Workshop, but I'm not sure if it's a fully baked idea. All I can hope for right now is that the game has solid mechanics and they are willing to put 5-10 years into the project to build up the mini collection, build up the different factions, and really create a solid game, because it's very, very difficult to create a mini-focused game, especially when you have titans like Games Workshop who essentially have a monopoly on the market. But if anyone can break Games Workshop's iron grasp on the miniature gaming hobby, I think it would be Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. They have the money, they have the lore behind the minis, and I think that they have the intent. But as of now, all we can do is hope that D&D Onslaught is a success, because I would love to add this new tabletop, tactical wargaming miniature experience to the overall D&D sphere. I think that's one of the huge things that it's missing. And heck, as I'm talking about it now, you can take probably WizKids minis or other minis that have been released in the past and just make stat blocks for those particular minis and use them. There would probably be copyright issues and it would be a lot of legal work, but it would be a way to accelerate the process. Would it succeed? I don't know. But from the bottom of my heart, I really do hope D&D Onslaught survives and grows into a fully fledged community. I don't want it to just be a small little offshoot of core D&D. I want these war gamers and these miniature painting enthusiasts to find a home in D&D Onslaught. But as of right now, that is just a dream. So what do all of you think about D&D Direct? What was your favorite part of the live stream? Or if you didn't watch the live stream, what are you most excited about right now? Think about commenting, and subscribing, because there are big things happening on this channel in the future that I will reveal shortly. And if you have nothing else to watch, I would suggest checking out this video right here. YouTube thinks that you'll like it. And thank you for entering the dungeon.